China's the trade aggressor, trying to control global supply chains.
At some point, we've got to sort of take the medicine, figure out what the other supply chains are, figure out other places, and you face the blackmailer head on. You just have to punch that blackmailer in the gut.
这是美国的几个主持人在节目里的言论，他们的言辞激烈，将中国称为恶霸，宣称中国正在霸凌美国，甚至用恶魔这样的词汇进行攻击。他们还互相加油打气，高呼美国绝对不能向中国屈服下跪，并且必须在中国的肚子上狠狠打上几拳。哇，听起来是不是觉得好励志呀？美国人看了一定会抱头痛哭，认为自己被欺负了，对吧？但是这番言论让中国人听起来就觉得有点蒙圈。在过去很长一段时间里，包括很多的屈辱的历史，中国一直是那个被欺负的对象才对。怎么这个角色被强行颠倒，中国竟然变成了他们口中的那个恶霸、那个列强、那个最爱欺负弱小的坏人了？咱们一起来听听他们都是怎么说的。
Because what are you going to do? Bow down, get on your knees, and kowtow to China for another 50, 75, or 100 years? At some point, we've got to sort of take the medicine, figure out what the other supply chains are, figure out other places, and you face the blackmailer head on and say, okay, this is going to be painful, but we are going to figure it out. And I give the president so much credit for really being the first person to try to do that. And even though there has been some pain for businesses here and people are uncertain about what the future will look like, I think this is the right thing to do. You just have to punch that blackmailer in the gut and say, bring it.
Go ahead.
I think China is an adversary, and the problem we have is that there are no holds barred, number one. Number two, we have not put up any long-term resistance to China getting a chokehold on our economy. They control rare earths, they control pharmaceutical inputs, all kinds of things that we actually cannot survive without. So yes, we can have a very robust tariff regimen against almost everyone else in the world because the United States has far and away the biggest consumer economy. Everybody needs to do business here, including China. But the reality is right now, China can say, no, if you do that, we're going to cut off rare.
And the problem that we face now is that even when we are able to mine, we can't refine these. We still send them back to China to get them refined. And so President Trump has a lot of options on the table. And I think something I'd like to see over the next 3 years that if we don't get it done under him, we may never get it done.
If you need more proof that Beijing is not negotiating in good faith, take it from the president.
Are we in for a sustained trade war with China?
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense. You know, they've used tariffs on us, but we've never had anybody sitting in that chair that felt the need to do it.
I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my co-host today, Brianna Lyman, Brian Bremberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us this hour, Fox News contributor Liz Peek. China's threatening new export controls on critical minerals, materials, the same rare earths the United States needs to power everything from fighter jets to AI chips. This is after signing a deal earlier this year to keep those markets wide open. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer telling Maria Bartiromo that China's the trade aggressor, trying to control global supply chains and freeze U.S. businesses out. Because for decades, China has played the long game, stealing our technology, our intellectual property, rigging the markets, and daring us to do something about it, nothing about it. It looks like we are finally doing something and then some. Liz Peek, how do you see this? Because it comes down to, is China an adversary or a rival? And from the language from CEOs, Tim Cook and his ilk are meeting with China's negotiator, He Lifeng, in Beijing this week. From China, the rhetoric, from here, the rhetoric. I can't make heads or tails of it.
I think they are our adversary. I think decades of hostile behavior from China, including what you just talked about, Dagan, stealing our technology, and then they couldn't steal it, flooding the market with cheap competition to drive U.S. producers out of business. All of that I think China is an adversary, and the problem we have is that there are no holds barred, number one. Number two, we have not put up any long-term resistance to China getting a chokehold on our economy. They control rare earths. They control pharmaceutical inputs, all kinds of things that we actually cannot survive without. So, yes, we can have a very robust tariff regimen against almost everyone else in the world because the United States has far and away the biggest consumer economy. Everybody needs to do business here, including China. But the reality is, right now, China can say, no. If you do that, we're going to cut off rare earths. We're going to cut off the preambles to various kinds of pharmaceuticals that Americans depend on. So it's a really complicated mess. But I think our problem is we've had one hand tied behind our back for too long. I am so thrilled with Scott Bessent and President Trump becoming robustly resistant, I guess is one word, maybe aggressive in this. I think we needed to do that.
It feels like negotiating with someone who's trying to blackmail you.
Yeah.
If you don't do this, then I'm going to do this bad thing to you. And my view and philosophy on that is you've got to rip off the Band-Aid with a blackmailer like that and say, bring it on. And that is what the president is trying to do. And China's going to play every card that it has at its disposal to try to make this seem scary and to instill fear in the United States, in businesses here. But you've got to rip the Band-Aid off. Because what are you going to do? Bow down, get on your knees, and kowtow to China for another 50, 75, or 100 years? At some point, we've got to sort of take the medicine, figure out what the other supply chains are, figure out other places, and you face the blackmailer head on and say, okay, this is going to be painful, but we are going to figure it out. And I give the president so much credit for really being the first person to try to do that. And even though there has been some pain for businesses here and people are uncertain about what the future will look like, I think this is the right thing to do. You just have to punch that blackmailer in the gut, say, bring it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I totally agree with you. And, you know, if we had zero Trump tariffs, you would still have exactly the same problem we have now. We would still be totally dependent on China. We'd be pretending that we're not because we wouldn't be doing anything to them. We wouldn't be building any capacity here. So we'd be as vulnerable as ever if there were no Trump tariffs. He has basically said, I'm going to call you out on this, China. Okay. My one problem with the way we're kind of setting this up, though, is China's stolen a lot from us. They didn't steal the rare earths. Yeah. We handed them that.
But because they flooded the market. And they did it purposefully to drive us out of the business.
The environmental zealots in this country decades ago said, we're not going to do this anymore. Send it somewhere else. And China said, you want to give us the most strategic minerals in the future? Please, and so forth. But we gave them that. The fools who ran this country, who worshiped the environment more than human well-being, gave them that industry. And now you can't really blame China for saying it's leverage we got, we're going to play it.
I'll blame them. I'll point fingers. Something is emerging that is very powerful, and that's our allies coming to our side because China has overplayed its hand on this rare earth shock, as Bloomberg calls it. So China's decision to implement these kind of unprecedented export controls on the rare earth supply chain and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent kind of revealed this somewhat. And a coalition is emerging of all of the most powerful nations together. Scott Bessent said, we're speaking with our European allies, with Australia, with Canada, India, and Asian democracies to form a cohesive, united response. And Japan's finance minister has called for the group of 7 countries to unite and respond to China's moves. His German counterpart touting a potential joint response of the entire bloc. Australia, you name it. China may be screwed up, and I'm enjoying this because you get all of these powerful nations together, the U.S. being the strongest, to fight back against China. That's something.
Yeah, and the United States is very rich in these rare earth minerals, right? California, we have a mine there. We have it in Georgia. There's also rare minerals in Missouri, Wyoming, Nevada. They're all over. And to your point earlier, Brian, we did offshore the production because of pressure from environmentalists. And the problem that we face now is that even when we are able to mine, we can't refine these. We still send them back to China to get them refined. And so President Trump has a lot of options on the table. And I think something I'd like to see over the next 3 years, that if we don't get it done under him, we may never get it done. We need to create some kind of institute where we are teaching Americans, by partnering with Japan and other countries who have the technology and capabilities to do it, how do you refine these rare earths? And we need to bring that back here because China is calling our bluff right now. And this is an opportunity where we've exposed that the government has left us susceptible to our biggest adversary. And now we have an opportunity to do something about it. I
just hope you're right on these European countries, because in my recent lifetime, these were the guys who had screwed up their energy sectors and with environmental regulations so badly that they had willingly hitched their wagon to Russia to power their economy. So I hope Trump has changed all their minds, but I'm kind of like in the I believe it when I see it sort of category on that
China is, and this is to paraphrase a quote from this analyst, inflicting a wide swath of pain on countries for no obvious reason.
It is kind of interesting that Russia held up Europe by dominating their supply of natural gas and through pipelines made Europe extremely vulnerable to a shutdown. And then they finally actually moved forward and did shut down Ukraine gas, et cetera. We don't seem to learn that this dependence, maybe Europe has learned. Maybe that's why they're actually getting together as the Group of Seven and being willing to support basically undoing somehow the blockade on rare earths. But, you know, there is, and it's, go ahead.
I just was going to say, seeing how Vladimir Putin has acted, I think the European nations, to your point, Brian, have woken up to, we shouldn't be in bed with certain people. And I think that China's watching everything that's unfolding around the world right now, including how America is participating in that and saying, we need to try to dominate. We need to play offense. So to Dagan's point of, you know, sort of handing out unfair policies to countries who might not really deserve them right now, they think that this is the moment in time where if they cower, they might get beat. And so that's why I think they're being so aggressive. But, you know, this is not the time. Listen, their dream scenario would have been to have a Kamala Harris in office and not have to deal with President Trump again. But they realize that they're going to have to. And if they don't strike at this moment in time, they might lose their opportunity. But he's not the person that you want to have to strike against.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he is riding herd on these guys. And that's why they're going from woke to woke up in record speed. But if they do, it's only because Trump is there saying, you do this or your future is toast. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, just think about it recently. President Trump is the only president willing to try and diversify where we're getting rare earths. Ukraine, he tried to strike that deal with Ukraine to diversify it. So I think that President
Trump... We're talking about Greenland.
And Greenland. Right, exactly. So he's the only president who has the foresight to think, what's going to happen when I'm out of office in 5 years? It's pretty bad now. It's only going to get worse if we don't do something right now.
Well, he needs to think about taking the U.S. government taking stakes in some of these companies. So what the hell's going to happen with that when he's out of office? So, I mean, don't have the government...
An open question.
Maybe don't have the government be an owner.
作为美国的盟友，韩国和日本整个一副吃瓜看笑话的心态。不过呢，这回他们胆子可不小，胳膊肘竟然往外拐，拐到了中国这边。尤其是韩国，真是看热闹不嫌事儿大，不但一边站队说这回是中国赢，还说中国这是以牙还牙，原样奉还而已。重点啊，他们还各种抱怨说，别忘记美国之前是如何欺负他们韩国的，现在打不过中国了，又开始想求韩国、日本买美国的大豆了。还说日本已经掀起了纳豆风，到处都是在推销大豆。韩国肯定也是跑不了了，以后没准啊规定买泡菜就一定要搭配豆浆才行。
다시 이제 히토류 수출 통제 이야기를 하고 나서지 않았습니까? 사실 미국은 히토류 얘기 나오면은 굉장히 움찔할 수밖에 없는 상황이거든요. 그런데 사실 트럼프 대통령도 처음에는 이 히토류 통제와 관련해 가지고 강경하게 나왔어요. 그래? 그러면은 11월 1일부터 중국 관세 100% 올리고 나 2주 후입니다. 그래서 당시에 언론들이 난리 났다. 미중이 꽝 하고 부딪혔다. 막 이런 얘기들 많이 나왔는데요. 이틀이 지나서 미국이 먼저 꼬랑지를 싹 내리죠. 예, 베센트 재무장관이 이제 나서가지고 이제 수습 국면에 들어갑니다. 우리 지난 주말에 양국 실무진 계속 협상을 했었고 그리고 트럼프 대통령도 슬쩍 그렇게 얘기해요. 아니 내가 중국을 때리려고 한 게 아니고 도와주려는 거였어. 그렇게 얘기를 했는데 사실 약간 웃긴 게 뭐냐면 미국하고 중국이 꽝하고 부딪히자 가만히 보시면은 세게 이러고 있으면은
굉장히 무덤덤하게
예, 미국은 혼자서 널뛰기를 해요. 네. 널뛰기를 합니다.
지금 분명히 딱 그래요, 정말.
그렇습니다. 근데 이번에 중국이 살짝 어떤 모습을 보였냐면 지금까지 미국이 중국을 상대로 하던 제재의 형식을 그대로 따라서 했어요. 뭐 니들이 하던 방식 우리 그대로 했는데 라고 얘기를 하면서 뭐가 들어갔냐면은 지금부터 중국의 히토류라든지 중국의 기술이 0.1%라도 들어간 걸 다른 나라 다른 기업이 수출을 하더라도 중국 정부의 승인을 얻어야 돼 라는 부분을 넣었습니다.
진짜 0.1% 농담 아니고 1%도 아니고 0.1%
그렇게 얘기를 했죠. 자, 그러면은 이 얘기가 뜬금없이 왜 나왔겠느냐예요. 사실 미국은 히토류 때문에 거의 로이로제에 걸릴 상황이기 때문에 히토류를 본인들에게 공급해 줄 수 있는 다양한 공급처들을 끊임없이 찾고 있는 상황입니다. 그러니까 미국이 니들이 우리를 우회해가지고 히토류 구하고 있다고? 그래? 그러면 할 수 있는지 한번 해봐 이러면서 그걸 다 막은 거고요. 그리고 이제 그 다음에 이제 최근에 베센트 재무장관이 그 얘기를 했죠. 중국이 히토류를 가지고 전 세계 경제를 쥐락펴락하는 거 여러분 내버려 두시겠습니까? 우리 동맹들이 힘을 합쳐가지고 여기에 대항해야 됩니다라고 얘기를 하고 있으니까 이제 뭐야?
갑자기
언제는 관세를 동맹이고 나발이고 미국을 쪽쪽 빨아먹는 것들은 우리가 다칠 거야 이러더니 언제부터 또 동맹을 챙겨? 이럴 때는 또 동맹이 필요하대 라고 지금 비판받고 있는 부분이 딱 그 부분이고요. 그리고 또 하나 미국이 중국을 치면서 몇 달 전에 그 얘기를 했어요. 우리 10월부터 중국산 선박은 중국 선박이든 간에 다른 나라가 중국산 선박을 사용하든 간에 무조건 수수료 매길 거야. 10월부터 이 얘기했거든요. 중국도 똑같이 미국산 선박에 대해서 수수료 매기겠다.
더 비싸게 했어요.
그렇습니다. 그래서 중국은 왜? Why not?
Do you understand my English but cannot speak like me? You know the words.
니들이 하는 그 방식 그대로 했는데 우리가 뭘 잘못했지? 그러니까 사실은 이 전문가들이 그 얘기도 했어요. 중국은 이미 이걸 때릴 때부터 미국이 강경하게 나왔다가 결국은 꼬랑지를 먼저 내릴 수밖에 없을 것이다까지도 머릿속에 다 계산하에 넣어서 이걸 한 거다라는 얘기가 나오고 있는 거죠.
지금 문희정 평론가님 말씀하신 것처럼 지난 이제 1기 때 그 미중 간의 첫 무역 전쟁이 있었잖아요. 그래서 뭐 25% 때리고 그때는 일방적으로 중국이 좀 당하는 그런 모습이었는데 그때 뭐 무역 전쟁뿐만 아니라 화해 제재한다 굉장히 화려하게 뭐 여러 다방면에서 이루어졌잖아요. 대중국 제재가. 그런데 그대로 지금 반사하고 있는 것 같아요. 중국이. 지금 니네들이 우리 선박하면 우리도 선박. 뭐 하여튼 관세가 됐으면 관세. 그리고 사람 제재, 뭐 기업 제재, 우리 그대로 제재. 이 지금 중국의 어떤 준비랄까 마음가짐. 아예 갈라설 생각을 하고 있는 걸까요? 어떻게 보세요? 전망을 좀 해주시면.
뭐 일단 1개랑 가장 큰 부분이 뭐가 있냐면 이제 전 세계가 준비되어 있는 상태죠. 트럼프의 2기에 앞서서 1기 때는 수업을 받았다면 이제는 그 수업 매뉴얼대로 그냥 진행하는 거고요. 또 물론 그 흘러간 시간에 따라 중국도 많이 변했고요. 중국 경제도 많이 변했고 세계 무대 위에서 중국의 위치도 많이 변했기 때문에 중국이 훨씬 더 과감해졌죠.
과감해졌다.
2010년대만 해도 중국이 그렇게 과감하게 외교 노선을 펼쳐지지 못했어요. 근데 이제는 정말 지구의 한 플레이어처럼 어느 정도의 책임 있는 자세를 보여주려고 하는데 뭐 자꾸 이제 뛰는 미국 때문에 막 이렇게 계속 뭔가에 안 되는 애를 계속 처리를 해야 한다는 그런 자세를 하고 있는데 확실하게 강경하게 나오고 있고 근데 그 강경하게 나오는 데 있어서 선을 계속 지키려고 노력을 하고 있는 게 보여요.
그 대두 문제는 어떻게 됐습니까? 계속 그 우리 대두를 위대하게 뭐 했었는데 어떻게 좀 진전이 있어요?
꿈쩍도 안 하고 있잖아요.
여전히 수입 안 하고
수입 안 하고 있고 그러니까 미국이 우리 식용유 수입 안 할 거야라고 얘기를 또 했잖아요. 근데 이제 중국 측이 니들이 수입하는 거 폐식용유잖아라고 얘기를 하면서 그거 지금 폐식용유가 어차피 그 디지털 그 에너지 만드는데 들어간다. 바이탈 에너지 바이오 에너지들 만드는데 들어가는 거라고 얘기를 하니까
네.
그거 미국 아니어도 우리가 팔 때 많아라고 얘기를 하고 있는데 사실 그럼 이 식용유의 얘기가 뜬금없이 왜 나왔겠냐는 거예요.
네.
이게 이제 트럼프 대통령 입장에서는 대두 때문에 대두 농민들이 겁나 화나 있는 상황에서
네.
저기 야 미국 기업들한테 사인을 주는 거죠. 저기 폐식용유 중국에서 가져오지 마. 그냥 여기 우리 대두 농가에서 가지고 와가지고 그거 좀 처리를 해라는 식으로 예, 그거 얘기를 하는 거고 일본도 그렇고 우리도 그렇고 아마 미국 측으로부터 대두 좀 수입해 달라라는 압박 엄청나게 받고 있을 겁니다.
지금 그 얘기 나오더라고요.
네.
네, 그러니까 대두 못 파니까 그 아시아에 있는 소위 말하는 동맹 이럴 땐 꼭 동맹을 찾아요.
그러니까.
그런 나라들에게 이제 대두 팔려고 여러 가지 압박이 있을 것이다, 있다, 뭐 여러 가지 그 관측 보도가 현재 나오고 있습니다.
아마도 그 압박이 어느 식으로 어떤 식으로 저는 나타날지 눈치를 좀 챌 수 있는 부분이 일본에서 나또 붐이 불거나 우리나라에서 갑자기 콩과 관련돼서 굉장히 많은 방송에서 홈쇼핑에서 팔기 시작하고 관련 방송들이 많이 나오기 시작하면 콩 수입이 되려나라는 거를 조금 눈치챌 수 있지 않을까라는 생각이 듭니다.
대두 관련해서 질문했더니 구윤철 부총리였나요? 뭐 거기에 대해서는 아직 언급할 게 없대. 그러니까 NCN대로 갔어요. 그래서 정말 압박이 좀 있는 듯한 현재까지는 그런 상황이고요. 이게 이제 문제가 제가 항상 같은 질문을 드리는데 미국하고 중국이 싸우든 말든 일단 걔네들끼리 잘 싸우라고 하고 문제는 우리한테 불똥이 얼마나 튀느냐가 문제잖아요. 우리는 우리나라 국익만 생각하면 됩니다.
그렇죠.
그런데 하나오션의 미국 내 법인이긴 하지만 정확히 때렸어요. 5군데를. 그래도 이거 좀 힘들더라고요. 이 기사 보고 있으니까. 결국은 또 중국이 우리 걸고 같이 미국에 대해 그냥 미국하고만 싸우지 왜 우리하고 이렇게 척지려고 하지 또 이런 생각이 들더라고요. 어떻게
하나오션이 그 미국의 필리조선소를 인수를 해가지고 사실은 우리가 이제 미국과 함께 하려고 하는 마스가 프로젝트의 최선봉에 서 있는 대표적인 기업이잖아요.
그렇죠.
근데 중국 정부가 그때 그랬어요. 야, 한국 니들 착각하지만 미국하고 조선업 협력하잖아. 그럼 니들 내부의 조선업이 공동화 현상이 일어날 거고 미국이 얼마나 숭악한 애들인데 니들 노동자 다 뽑아갈 거고 숙련된 노동자들 다 뽑아갈 거고 그렇게 되면 니들이 타격을 받는다라는 식으로 굉장히 겁을 줬단 말이에요. 이건 무슨 얘기냐면 중국 정부는 그게 싫은 거예요.
그렇죠.
예. 그래서 사실 그거 하지 말라고 하나오션 미국 자회사 5곳을 딱 제재를 때린 거죠. 이래도 마스가 할 거야? 네, 이런 식으로.
哇塞，听完韩国的节目，是不是给人的感觉就是这小弟可真敢说呀？日本的节目呢也差不多，全程都在嘲讽，对他们的大哥简直是一点没有口下留情，胆子一个比一个肥。
アメリカ合衆国が中国を助けたいのであって、傷つけたいわけではないっていうふうにわざわざ書いてるんですよ。
このトランプのね、このなんかツンデレ具合。よくわかんないですよね。
デレが。ここはデレでない。まあ、米中激突の話で中国がレアアースの輸出の制限。
これはトランプが 100% かけるって言うからでしょ。
ただ、今日すいません、これ、まだ資料を作る前の段階で、ニュースが入ってきたんですけど、トランプ大統領外交的評価を上げました、一気に。これは認めざるを得ないですね。なんとガザを停戦させたという。
そうですね。
いや、これはね、来年、ノーベル平和賞これありじゃないですか。ただ、問題はこちらですよ。中東はまあいいとして、そっちで成功したとして、やっぱりこの東アジアですよね、東アジア正面。見ていくと、レアアースの特に輸出制限と、また大豆の話なども含めてですね、トランプがいよいよ譲歩したという、ニュースが飛び込んでまいりました。これはですね、放送してる時点から2日ぐらい前の、日本時間の朝ですかね、中国のことは心配しなくていいと、すべてうまくいく。アメリカ合衆国が中国を助けたいのであって、傷つけたいわけではないっていうふうにわざわざ書いてるんですよ。
このトランプのね、このなんかツンデレ具合。よくわかんないですよね。
デレが。
すぐここはデレでプーチンに対してもね、トマホーク。我々は仲がいいとか言ってたのに、まあだんだん今は変わってきたり。
そうですね。そういうとこありますよね。で、まあ今回、まあちょっと端的に申しますとですね、中国製品にこれ11月 1日付でということになるんですけど、来月1日ですね、トランプ大統領、11月1日付で、中国からの全輸入品に 100% の追加関税を課すと表明したということですよね。で、発動時期は中国の対応次第で前倒しもあり得るということをですね、これ3日ぐらい前に発表した後に株価が、先週のこれ末のあたりですね、一気に落ちたと。で、ちょっと一瞬暴落かなという状況が、先週の金曜日ですよね。暴落して。で、翌月曜日はまさにブラックマンデーになっちゃうんじゃないかみたいなことでわーっと言ってたのに、これ確か日曜日あたりにツイートしたんですね。これ、ポストしたというか。それで一気にわーっと戻して。
妥協するだろうなと。多分ね、言われたと思いますよ。全部 100% かけたらまずいっすよと。いうふうに言われて株価も下がって。
株価も実際下がって。
それで、ちょっと、やっぱそうなのかというふうに、どう考えても分かることをやっと分かったという。
で、今回、レアアース輸出規制への対抗措置というか、中国は9日に発表したレアアースの輸出管理強化、これを極めて攻撃的だと批判をしていて、対抗策として制裁を発動するということを今回決めたんですけど、それをまたやめたということですね。で、中国はレアアースの加工技術の海外協力を海外に出すということを禁止して、防衛半導体企業向けの輸出を制限する方針を打ち出していると。トランプ氏はこれを衝撃的で悪質だと非難したということらしいんですよ。
トランプの 100% の方が悪質だろうと。ちょっと僕は中国をね、守りたいっていうわけじゃないんですけど、ただ、アメリカが困るっていう。レアアース止められたら困るし、あとその医療関係の、原料。麻薬になりそうなね、ものも含めて、麻酔になりそうなものとか、そういう医療系のものっていうのは、中国から入れてるわけですよ、ほとんど。で、それがアメリカの医療関係が止まってしまうという可能性もあるわけですよ。昔マスクがないとか、いろんな問題があったじゃないですか。あれ、どこで 100% って言ったら、本当にもうアメリカ中を苦しめることになりますね。薬とか全然足りないわけですよ、アメリカも。
で、昨日だかの、昨日明け方ですかね、ゴールドマン・サックスがまとめたレポートで、アメリカの国民が、関税を払うって、当然のこと普通に書いてるだけなんですけど、それが衝撃を持って、アメリカ国内では迎えられているという。関税って払うのアメリカ国民なんですか？あれ外国は払うんじゃなかったでしたっけみたいな。
それトランプが言ってるだけで、MAGA の人たちのアメリカの3割の人たちは文字が読めないし、ちょっとそういうのが分かんない人たちですから、それが、トランプの言うのが本当だと思ってたんですよね。アメリカ人が払うっていうのが、事実なんだけど。
もう、それをもう騙されちゃってる。
俺たちが払ってたのかみたいな。
っていうことをですね、わざわざそのレポートでやっぱ書かれていて、なんだこいつはレポート、なんか怪しいこと書いてんじゃないかみたいな変な疑惑が出たりとかしてるわけですけど、とにかくですね、今回中国は心配しなくてよいっていう、この今回ポストした後にですね、なんか実は大量の買い注文が、これビットコインとかの方でしたっけ、暗号資産の方に、一回もう一気に下落したじゃないですか。
一回売りが
入りましたよね。で、そこで下がったところで、このトランプ発表の2時間ぐらい前に、なぜかどこかのわけのわからないところから大量の買い注文が入っていて、で、その後にトランプが大統領が、ほら、これ今回中国、心配ないからね、心配ないさーって言ったら、一気にガーッと上がったわけじゃないですか。これで大儲けしたのは誰か、バロン君じゃないですか。
またやったんですか？
やったらしいですよ。
マジで。あいつらインサイダーだからね。
インサイダー。しかもほら、株でそういうことをやっちゃいけないっていうレギュレーションはあるじゃないですか。暗号資産はまだ新しいからそういうレギュレーションないんですよ。そうするといくらでも
株はね SEC が来ますからね、
やってますよね、暗号資産に関してはまだまだその辺の法整備がないからいけるってことじゃないですか。なんかバロン君750億円のヨットを買ったとかいう19歳のくせにですよ。
クソ
クソじゃないですよね。何がクソなんですか？
いやなんか金持ちになるやつはいくらでも金持ちになればいいやっていうのはすごく僕は思うんだけど、 トランプ一族に関しては、クソって思いますね。
すごくないですか、これ。
いや、人気ぶりはすごいっすよ。本当に。さすがに、ね。
国を使ってね、やってるっていうところがまた
もうだって世界中が、もうなんていうか、右往左往させられて、
そうですね。そうですね。
破産してるやつもいるわけですよ。FX とかやって、吹っ飛ばされてるやつとかもいるわけですよ。トランプの一言で。
これちょっと和田さんの説明を。
どうしても中国からレアアース入れなきゃいけないっていうのはアメリカ側にありまして、防衛関係においては、もう戦闘機とか飛ばなくなります。
そうですね。
半導体です。要は半導体関連って思ってくれたらいいんですけど、半導体がないと全部ダメですから、ミサイル、レーダー、誘導装置、精密機、これ全部ダメです。で、当然半導体の部品とか製造装置とかそっちの方とかも、動かなくなったりとか、いろいろ出てきたりします。
確かにね。
で、もう当然電気自動車、それからハイブリッドとかね、タービンのとこの、磁石とか動かしてるとこ部分とか、そういったところとかも全部ダメになります。
確かに。
それから、サプライチェーン自体を中国以外にしなきゃいけないって言ったら、トランプが 100% かけるって言ったところで、それ以外の国から寄せられるものだったらいいんですよ。中国側は、それが、トランプがやったところで、ブラジルから入れるとかできたじゃないですか。農作物なんかは他の国から買えるんですよ。
確かに。
ところがレアアースっていうのは、もう持ってる国ってのは限られてて、大半は中国が持ってると。
生産ができるってね、環境に負荷をかけずに。
南米とかにもあるところがあったりとか、海底、日本の周りも海底とかあるんですけど、まだそこまで、
コストがね、
できてないんですよ。
コストはね。
だからこれを、
やられちゃうとね。
ど素人ぶりがね、トランプのあって言われて、
いや、ガザを止めたのは、戦闘を止めたのはすごいですけど、これに関しては本当に中国にやられっぱなしっていう印象しかないですね、僕の中では。
そんな形でね、トランプの方はなかなか、ディールはできない。中国に対してね。足元見られてる。
これ本当に、中国との争いっていうところに、すごく黄色の信号が、灯っている状態なのかなというふうに、正直思います。
これだけは、逆にプロービングしちゃいけないのにね。プロービングすればするほど中国側の方が有利になっていくっていう感じになっちゃうじゃないですか。